Roglic abandons the Vuelta after his heavy crash yesterday, moving Enric Mas into second, Juan Ayuso into third. And with Roglic out, that made this stage even more likely to be a breakaway stage. Finishes with 4K, 7.5%. Perfect for him. So the Milano Torino guys, of which Rigoberto Urán, I believe, has won that race. It's part of a 9K, 5% climb, but there's a descent in the middle of it. So most of the climbing bits are at 7%. Here was the breakaway. It did have Rigo Urán in it. Pacher, who's been very good in this Vuelta. Marc Soler, who's already won a stage, medium mountain stage. Craddock, Maida, Herrada, Gisbert, Fred Wright. So a pretty strong breakaway. Kenny Ellison as well. Champoussin, Jungels. And they got 4 minutes, 6 minutes quick step, easy-ish day for them before the start. All smiles there. They let it out to about 6 minutes, 7 minutes. Craddock, perhaps discussing plans for the team car. With all these good climbers in the move, the plan was obviously to get ahead. So with 18Ks, 19Ks to go, he started his first move. He was bridged to by, I think, Pacher, actually, and Jungels got across to him. So Asia had numbers in the group, and they wanted to use that to their advantage. Champoussin countering the Jungels move, but Soler's on his wheel marking it. Arkea had two riders, Guglielmini and Gisbert, and Bahrain had two with Maida and Wright. So a bit of an advantage before the climb if you had multiple teammates to pace back, although I think Maida was doing it on his own for a fair bit, and then he finished 2 minutes back. Movistar were cooking something up. They were cooking something up before the climb, getting into position. Ineos as well. We'll get back to them after we deal with the breakaway. But Craddock, his second move was successful. Got ahead, got a nice gap too, with just archaic pacing and none of the other riders wanting to burn their own race at this point. This is on the first section of the climb, which is 7%. Then it levels off with about 5.5Ks to go just after this point where the second part of the break is, and draft is really, really important. And that is where I think Champoussin attacks, and then his bridge to Urán was marking, I don't know how many moves he marked, at least 4 or 5. He was extremely strong on this finish, and Craddock gets the benefit of being ahead of just doing his own pace, not having to do these surges, closing down moves, an irregular rhythm. It requires you got to be higher level to be able to do that, which Rigoberto Urán seemingly was today. He was on perfect climb for him, but Pacher's fast too. You don't want to go to the finish with Pacher, and Soler knew that. He attacked. He was just pacing the climb his own way, like we've seen throughout this whole Vuelta. Not much snap, but still wound it up. Urán marks this move. Herrada, who won a stage as well, in the wheel, and still Lawson Craddock on 10 seconds because they're finessing, and then another attack comes from Quentin Bechet. If you want to watch the full stage, or not the full stage, just the last sort of 7Ks, this is a good one. The great break battle of guys just throwing haymakers at each other. 1,400 meters to go. Uran's got across to Craddock with Herrada, but then those two start finessing. No one's getting across on their own, and then Soler brings Pacher back, and then once they all get across to Craddock, that lets Champoussin come back, and we all know, do not slow up in the Vuelta with Champoussin behind you.
Here it comes!
I am Clément Champoussin. Rah! We saw this in the Vuelta last year. You remember stage 20. Didn't work out today. Herrada marked him and then countered with 800 meters to go. Saw he had separation. Soler can't bridge. So then Urán has to go around him. And this is, I don't know, the fifth time Urán has had to mark somebody, gets across to Herrada, relaxes a little bit with Pacher off the wheel. And if Pacher had just timed a little bit differently, he's got the best sprint, I think, of this group, he might have had a chance with this curved finish. Urán's timing, it was too late. Urán wins the stage. Huge win for him. The EF, I don't know who fell over. It was the cameraman that fell over. He just stacked it here, poor guy. They were so excited, the EF crew, with Urán's win. Back in the GC group, I told you, Mühlberger pacing, then Baller after him. Movistar were cooking up something on this climb. I mean, Evenepoel's really good on these, we've seen in Norway and other stages. So the prospect of mass attack gapping Evenepoel pretty limited, but if you don't know if you don't try, but maybe get Baller in the break, Ultima Baller, and Master's looking at Evenepoel, and Evenepoel's looking at him like, I really don't care about this finish. Can we just ride to the finish? Like, you're not going to get me, and I'm not going to pace either. Mas tries him again, and this time Almeida gets separation from Lopez. Ayuso slots onto Lopez wheel. Almeida's like on, I don't know, 7 minutes on GC. Again, this is the second part of this climb is like 4K, 7%. So they do it in like 10 minutes. So the gaps you're going to get usually aren't huge, but Almeida takes the opportunity to counter because Rodriguez it doesn't seem to suit him, these sort of climbs. He's more of a diesel, I think. He's lighter. Almeida goes. Aaronsman, it didn't suit him either. He lost like 40 seconds on this. And Thibaut Pinot's in the group, which is kind of the odd one out. Like, he's on 44 minutes on GC. So just along for the ride, I guess. Remco doesn't care about Almeida. He's 7 minutes ahead of him. He's just going to do his own pace. So then eventually Lopez has to come to the front to start closing that down. And Ayuso senses an opportunity to attack Mas. And I think he was hoping, he's 4.5 minutes behind him, that Remco wouldn't mark him, but Remco did. And you see Ayuso's looking dead in the eyes of Enric Mas. I think he was trying to move into second. He moved onto the podium this morning. That gaps Rodriguez again, but he slows up with Mas in the wheel, and then they kind of just ride to the finish. Well, Remco sits on his pace, and Almeida's able to take 11 seconds or so. Hopefully, we see more of this throughout the third week. We've got shallow climbs, though, so it doesn't really suit that sort of stuff too much. Maybe team tactics if teams get it right. But Uran wins ahead of Pacher, then Herrada, Soler fourth, Ederson, Champersin, Demarchi, Jungels, Gisbert, and Craddock rounding up the top 10. In terms of GC, big changes. So Evenepoel still 201 ahead of Marcel Ayuso into third on 451. Rodriguez and Lopez not too far behind him. Aaronsman loses time, and Rigoberto Uran moves into ninth through the breakaway he was in. Will he try and hold on to that? Will he try and do one better? Will Hindley go on the breakaway? That's what I want to find out in this week of the Vuelta. Hopefully, Mars and Movistar keep trying. But until stage 18's recap tomorrow, ciao.